Hello, and welcome to the Taking Care of You podcast. I'm your host, Lesley Cantu. This podcast is all about sharing information and resources for students, faculty, and staff to stay safe and support their well-being. In today's episode, we sit down with staff members from the Basic Needs Program at Stanislaus State to explore essential resources that support student success and well-being. From food and housing support to community campus referrals, we'll dive into how these programs help meet students' everyday needs and create a stronger, more supportive campus environment. Whether you're a current student or simply interested in the services available at Stanislaus State, this conversation will give you valuable insight into the vital role Basic Needs plays in student life. Today, our guests are Aguirre Sanchez and Leticia Caballero, Basic Needs Coordinator and Basic Needs Lead here at Stanislaus State. Now let's get into the discussion. Hi, ladies. How long have you been here at Stanislaus State?
So I've been here since August 22, so about 3 years, and I mainly stationed or on site at the Stockton campus and oversee there. This is my first role in the CSU, and I'm very proud of that.
I started in February of 2022, and I started in athletics, and I have been with Basic Needs for about 2 going on 3 years.
And what is your experience in Basic Needs?
So I know for me, this is Leticia speaking, this role is actually my first position in this field, I guess I would say. Prior to this role, I worked in student housing at a previous university. All my prior experience has been student housing. And so it was nice to kind of take the experience around student support, crisis, and seeing all the things that students go through related to their basic needs and getting into a role where I get to provide that direct service. And so I'm our main sole professional staff member at the Stockton campus. And so I wear a little bit of every hat there. And that's my favorite part. I get to do a little bit of everything. And what better job than to send people home with food and security.
I am a Stanislaus State alum. I graduated in 2017. I kind of got to see the evolution of Basic Needs. I remember it used to be in a closet, and it was mainly canned items. I ended up finding my niche here as a peer health educator, and that was in community health education. So I pursued my master's degree in public health, specifically in community health education, and it kind of led me back to Stanislaus State, where I learned so much. And that's what I do now. I do a lot of CalFresh outreach, nutrition education, and just being resourceful to students. And I love it. It's a great experience. You get to see students every day. Every day is different. It's not the same. We do, the food boxes. We do CalFresh applications, assistance, education, the food pantry, everything. And it's really fun.
A whole spectrum of things.
Yes.
So I know you guys kind of went into it a little bit, but can you tell me what kind of inspired you to join our campus community and especially in Basic Needs?
Having spent most of my student work experience, professional experience in student housing, I just wanted to be able to do more. I felt like the more I moved up in an office, I spent less time with students, there's more meetings and structure. So I want to get back to a place where I can have those conversations and hear more of our student voices and then be able to do and advocate for direct action to support that. So I really wanted to find a role that was a case manager role, focused on care. And literally the next day, the posting for this position went up and I was like, the universe says this is where I need to go. Followed my heart, found my spot in Basic Needs, and best decision of my life.
So as a student, I tried to volunteer for as many things that I could on campus. And when I came upon the opportunity to be a peer health educator, I came about just being resourceful, like peer-to-peer. And that's kind of what we have figured out, that students learn best from students. Being able to do that as a student was great, just in health education, informing students about healthy eating, physical education, things like that. And I just feel like Stanislaus State gave me so much, and I wanted to come back and give back to my community. I didn't feel like I was graduating from Stanislaus State essentially because I had a feeling like I'm going to come back. I'm going to, serve the community that served me at one point. I grew up in the Central Valley. in an area kind of remote from here. I call it the boonies. It's out like by Chowchilla. And they used to bring out food boxes every so often. So I was a recipient of food boxes at once in my community. And just coming into this role, I felt like I was very familiar with, the resources and what families could be going through, and like how I wanted to be also that resource and that support for students and their families.
I love that, pulling from like first-hand experience, and you really get to relate to the students in both your guys' areas, because being a student and just wanting to be integrated with them as well. Can you give me an overview of basic needs here at Stan State?
So one of the things when I got here was kind of figuring out more what is basic needs and how it serves the students. And so I thought it was a really cool history to learn, especially when I was an undergrad student. We didn't have like a food pantry, and because I went to Humboldt. And so when I got here, I learned that there's been a lot of advocates along the way to really make basic needs what it is. Starting with, I think I wrote it down because I wanted to be sure of the year, but we had system-wide chancellor Timothy White in 2018. And I think he was the one who initially advocated for the basic needs initiative study that led to like the change across the CSU, like recognizing students need this support to succeed and do well. Fun fact, I also think he was the chancellor of UC Riverside on the Undercover Boss episode. So fun. But essentially from there, we've really had growth from like student voices to faculty support, including the California Faculty Association. And we get a lot of support from the Master of Social Work. And we started out as an office of 2 people and have just like grown from there and really just trying to meet the needs. And so year to year, we see like at least 100% increase in service usage. And so currently how we support students is like Alexa mentioned, we help with CalFresh applications. A lot of times that means having meetings, kind of seeing if you're eligible, but also helping students understand how does CalFresh and state benefits work. We also do a lot of case management. And what I mean with that is we meet with students, kind of learn, like we ask students, if you have questions or concerns around housing, food, or financial security, come find our office. Because it's really hard to specifically say like every student's going to get this or every student's going to get that, because we know each student's situation is different. And so essentially, we just encourage students to talk to us, because then the more that we know, the more that we can kind of help. And so that includes, we have an emergency grant review process. We have a temporary housing assistance process. I feel like we're most known for is our pantry. And then we have a clothing closet in Turlock. And then we have our food distribution box process, which is also here in Turlock. But my goal is, that's my next big dream for Stockton campus. Those are the things like we're continuing to develop and grow. I will say that the ones that are growing most in popularity, I would say there were clothing closet, and we've been getting a lot of more interest and usage out of our food pantries and our food services.
And then just to clarify, there's food pantry and the Warrior Closet on the Stockton and Turlock campuses?
So right now, we have the Warrior Food Pantry on both campuses. The clothing closet is currently just on the Turlock campus because we just launched that this last year. Been very popular and getting donations, so we've been doing really well with it. What we love is like there's no real limit to students being able to visit. They can just come by and get clothes as they need. We've even been able to support students who maybe lost resources. And I'm like, okay, so do you, especially like our parenting students, it's really cool to be like, do you, and then you have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, let's pull together some sizes for you. So that's been really awesome to see that we can support that way.
How do you ensure that students have access to the support that they need, or that they're aware of the resources that are here on campus for them?
We always make time to make sure we go to as many outreach and tabling opportunities. We ensure we become very active. I would say like new student orientation. There's also, I believe, a template for faculty to be able to add a reference to basic needs services into their syllabus. We also have partners in Master of Social Work. So every year we get like a certain amount of Master of Social Work interns with our office, and they're able to do presentations in classrooms. And really, I think it's naming information so that students don't feel like they have to ask. So sometimes, like one time, students like, I don't have to be a certain income level. And once I knew that was a question, when I do the tour of the pantry, I'm like, you know, that like all you have to do is be an enrolled student, We have like demographic questions for like when we do food boxes, but it's not a barrier to access. We just have to have some information to report to just say like this is who's using the services. But overall, like we really try to name it. We've been very proud over the past couple of years of how there's less of a stigma around using the services. Students will like, hey, are you going to go to the pantry after class? And they'll talk to each other. Like it's a very comfortable space, and we're very proud of that.
I think one of the awesome things is like when students are exposed to, for example, like, hey, there's a Warrior Food Pantry, right? And this is something we saw last semester where there was like 3 students that would come to the Warrior Food Pantry. And then the next week, it was just like more of their classmates. So now it's 5 students. And then at the same time, you expect those students to come in and like they'll take their groceries and they'll take them to class with them. So that's also like a way of like exposure for students to know like, hey, like, where'd you get that, you know? And another thing that I feel like we've been leveraging a lot more is social media. And like we understand how much social media like impacts, you know, like the generation now. And being able to just be creative and, you know, put information out there that about the resources that we have, as well as Leticia mentioned, like tablings. I feel like that one, like in-person interaction was kind of taken away from us like during COVID, but coming back, I see that like, you know, being something that we can continue working on. So every Wednesday, whether it's tabling or just walking out there and telling people about our resources is something that is very helpful, like to make sure we have that exposure and that students know we're here to support them.
Yeah, sometimes folks, when there's something that they're concerned about or things like that, can kind of become a barrier, like whether a physical one, process one, personal one, system one. And then so essentially it's part of our work to listen and hear what those might be and address them so that it's easier for folks to be able to access services. I know like a personal perspective one that can happen is they'll say like, well, yeah, I'd love to. It's here to use for the pantry, but I want to leave it there for people who need it more. And so my response to that is you as a student are able to shop in the pantry once a week, get 10 items at no cost. That's the base, as long as you're enrolled. If you're worried about, you know, stocking the pantry, stuff being there for who needs it, don't worry about that. That's my role. That's our office's role. This is here for you. You're qualified for that. I'm not here to define your need for you, but to keep that in mind, because I mean, with prices going up and the cost of gas and things like that, it's important to know like whatever they pick up in food alleviates a cost somewhere else that they can then apply the funds to. So we have those conversations. And so usually by the end of the conversation, the students shopped, because it's just kind of like, it's a beautiful thought, wanting to like provide for the community or not access a resource to save for somebody else. But then that becomes like a personal barrier to like, maybe I need this as well. And so a lot of times I do feel like students struggle with like aligning themselves with like, I'm someone who needs this. And we've worked conversationally with a lot of students that we hope they don't feel that way and that they know we're here for them.
When it comes to, for example, like food distribution, the Warrior Food Pantry, clothing closet, I really like to put emphasis like at no cost, no questions asked, because it is the case. And we do run into that statement of just like, oh, like I'll leave it for someone that needs it more. And my response is always like, you don't have to need it. Like if you want it, it's yours. Like it's there for you. But yeah, essentially that's kind of how students would access our resources. It's like if you're an enrolled student, you have, you know, access to all of this, no questions asked.
Can you give me a list of like the initiatives you guys do offer and like services that are provided?
We have our Warrior Food Pantry. We have our Campus Cares, which oversees the emergency grants and the temporary housing assignments. We have our food distributions. We have the CalFresh food, which is the applications, the assistance. And then we have CalFresh Healthy Living, which is more of like the education workshops, more practical. And then our Warrior Clothing Closet, which we mentioned. And as well, we host donations over, you know, the academic year, whether it's for clothing, whether it's for, you know, like a winter clothing drive, or like currently we're wanting to support our parenting students. So we're currently hosting a drive for parenting items, for children's items. So things like that.
Can you give me a little bit more detail on what CalFresh is and how does it help students?
It used to be known more like the SNAP program. It's EBT. I like to tell students it's like financial aid for food. They are able to get a debit card, more to sort of say like, and right now it's $292 per month that can be awarded to students. It is based on eligibility criteria that students have to meet. Majority of the students can get this resource. We have a list of majors where if they do not meet any of like the general eligibility criteria, if they are a part of, it's called local program that increases employability, which is essentially a major, we would be able to qualify them for CalFresh based on that. So for example, if you are a biology major, if you are a criminal justice major, if you are a sociology major or MSW student, those local programs that increase employability would qualify them for CalFresh and allow them to have that benefit.
How can students apply, and what does the eligibility process look like?
So students can apply in a few ways. We have our website on basic needs where, we have that direct link that they can apply on their own. We also offer, in-person assistance, which I honestly would recommend to do more because we can provide that documentation. Or what I like to do is I guide them step by step, or sometimes I'll even do the application for them to ensure that they're answering the questions correctly, because sometimes they'll miss something and that can be essential to answer to make sure they get those benefits. I also make sure to prepare students for their interview. So they will have an interview with a county member, their caseworker. So I kind of prep them hey, these are the types of questions you should expect, and this is how you could answer them, and just guide them in that process. They could also apply in person. They can go to our county offices here in Modesto, whichever is closest to them. But those are generally the ways that students can apply. Eligibility process is different. We have a pre-screen form that students could fill out, and based on their answers, we either tell them in the moment, hey, you do qualify, let's apply, or hey, you don't, but if something changes in the future, come back and we can look into that.
We've talked about the Warrior Food Pantry. What kind of food do you guys provide there, or what's just an overview of the Warrior Food Pantry on both campuses?
For the Warrior Food Pantry, students are able to get 10 items a week at no cost. So when a student comes into the pantry, what they'll find is that we've kind of sectioned the food items into 4 different zones. And that's just to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to get items that are more shelf-stable, cooking items, more snack items, toiletries, which is a big plus because that's not something you really can purchase with your CalFresh benefits. And so students love that. And then we also have a fridge and freezer for non-perishables. Right now, that's the other fun part of our office is working with all these programs is we're in 2 different counties. So different regulations, different contract processes. But essentially, you can see it in action at the Turlock Warrior Food Pantry is they do weekly, sometimes twice a week, pickups from Second Harvest, which is a food bank site in Manteca. They'll bring in thousands of pounds of food there just to make sure we're serving all our students. Because on average, I think the Warrior Food Pantry in Turlock is seeing, I want to say the estimate is 900-ish to 1,000 students a week. And so it's really great that we have that partnership with Second Harvest Food Bank. Currently, we're working on the contract for that to also have that connection for the Stockton campus. But until then, students can see me pull up 3 times a week in the morning and unload my car with this beautiful delivery from a local grocer that will remain anonymous because of branding, I guess. I don't know. And so from there, it's a little bit different because I have to take a different approach right now. But I think max have seen about 165 students a week at the Stockton campus. But we really do try to have a variety of items and really just factor in also the parenting needs like diapers, wipes. I work to make sure I have diapers, wipes of all sizes, pull-ups. It's a great moment when a student suddenly stops shopping for pull-ups because they're like, my kid's got potty trained. I'm like, congratulations. So we got to be there for the milestones. So it's really cool.
The Warrior Food Pantry and food distribution are completely different. Can you kind of explain what the food distribution is on campus?
Essentially, it's under basic needs, right? But the food distribution initiative is a partnership with United Samaritans Foundation and the California Faculty Association. So we serve right now only the Turlock campus, but students in Stockton are welcome to come also and grab a box if they are here on campus. Supplies are while they last, but we do this essentially 2 times a month, and we distribute about 300 boxes a month for students. And again, this is a service that is at no cost, no questions asked. Students can come up, and they could either drive up or walk up to our station. It's out here at the Reflection Pond. It's every either Wednesday or Thursday from 10 to 12 while supplies last. If they are not able to grab a food box at the distribution site, they could always pick up in the food pantry. If students aren't able to pick up themselves, we have a lot of family members that come pick up for their student. They also send their friends sometimes, and that's okay because we want them to have that resource. So it would look like a quick application they have to fill out at the beginning of every semester. And then after that, it's just sign and date here, sign there, and then here's your food box. It includes a lot of great items. We have non-perishables. We'll get juice. Last year when egg prices weren't so high, we were getting like flats of eggs we could give students. And they loved that. So that was pretty awesome. Yeah. This last time we had bags of Lay's chips that we were able to hand out to students. It comes also with fresh produce. So we also try to include, like apples, potatoes, cucumbers, carrots, onions. So those are the things that students can expect from a food box in food box distribution.
I remember one time I saw that you guys had hot Cheetos and I really wanted to go get one. But if I would have known that you could have sent a friend, that would have been so helpful. So I'm glad that I know that now. Are there any other misconceptions that students might have when it comes to utilizing these services?
Probably the biggest one has just been, is this a service that I can use? And so it's really as long as they're enrolled in a course. And honestly, just like if you're not sure, we love questions. Just come ask us. We try to really put ourselves out there and just become well known. And I'll make jokes at my own expense as long as it leads to a less awkward conversation and folks are comfortable asking questions. I think that the thing that we still navigate is when students are coming to college, right? It's a new environment. There's a lot of things going on. There's going to be still the misconceptions that you bring from home or your environment of who needs this? I'm not that person. I know I struggled a lot with that in college and growing up is no, I'm supposed to be stronger than this. I'm supposed to be better than this. It's not a bad thing to ask for help. And it's here for you. And we're here for you. And there's power in community. And it's a great way to learn how to give back to others.
So I just wanted to take a moment to address our undocumented student populations and just letting them know that these resources are available to them. For example, we've had students that sometimes have not wanted to take a food box because they're afraid, that it's going to affect them in a negative way. There's been students that Leticia mentioned, just asking questions. There are other ways that we can support our population here on campus. And these resources, specifically our food box distribution program, our Warrior Food Pantry, the clothing closet, any of our donation initiatives. These are all at no cost for our undocumented students, no question asked. If you're listening and you're part of this population on campus, we are here for you, and these resources are here for you too, and we're here to support and just anything you would like us to refer you to.
Can you share a success story where students have benefited from these food services?
We really like to incorporate student feedback and narratives and things. And so some things we've learned from our students is they've really appreciated just having so many options, varieties that are nutritious, that having places like the pantry and the way that we roll out our services leads to a sense of belonging, that there's dignity in the way that students are able to shop. There's also, I think one particular one that stood out to the team was that needing a safe place to land. And that's kind of just helped us aim to be that place. I had a student who really wanted to share her story as a way to inspire other students to see that they're not alone. We have her article, I think, on our website. She came to us to get help around food and to help her family with a housing situation. And I'm happy to say she graduated last May, and it was quite the accomplishment. She's currently a credentialed student. But yeah, she talks a lot about advocating about being a parenting student, and like Stan really cares, and that she found that in us. So that was really cool. I know Alexa's shared in a group setting before about like just having students and like, here's this box, and then like how great it is to like hand it over and just be able to, that immediate gratitude, and just students sharing like how significant it's been to not just themselves, but their families. We have students who like phone a friend, call their parents, like, what do we need at the house? Like, what am I supposed to grab? So knowing like the impact goes much further than we think.
I think this is one of the best parts of my job. You know, like Leticia says, I do get a little bit emotional because when like, you know, you're supporting a student and they're thankful for it, like that, it was just like a random, like, hey, thank you. And it's just like, oh, wow, like that makes, you know, my job worthwhile, you know, like whether it's like, hey, like I was awarded the benefits, like, thank you so much for the time you took to, you know, help my family out or help me out, you know, or just like, hey, like when's the next food box distribution? Like this really, you know, helped feed my family this week. So just kind of hearing that, like I take those all as successes, because I feel like we do make a difference, like as a team collectively, and you know, partnership with our community partners, and just the support we have here on campus. Like it's great to be able to do this for our students. And I feel like we have a very like unique like aspect to being able to see, you know, like some people just hear about it like, oh yeah, here's a Warrior Food Pantry, but we get to see like firsthand, like students don't have to worry about where their next meal is going to come from, and they'll be able to study for their test. You know, like they know that we are there to support them. So it's pretty awesome to be a part of that.
Stan cares. You're here. We're a Warrior family. I love that.
Yeah, we've been very lucky to have the support of Dr. Jane Rousseau. She leads like a participatory action research piece. And so over the years, her and other Master of Social Work students have been able to collect the information and narratives and give us recommendations. And so it's really being able to be inspired by our own work and see like, oh, this recommendation really helped out, or to learn more. I think part of it is just like being in a space where we're not just inspired by the work that we do, but we're uplifted and empowered by the people we work with. Like this has been such a caring space, and I'm really happy to be working with my team.
You mentioned housing and emergency support. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So for temporary housing, we used to call it emergency housing, immediate housing. But it goes back to how people interpret resources. And so temporary housing, we have a form people can fill out, and really helps us to know if they don't have any housing in that moment, they're anticipating losing their housing, those pieces. And so we've learned quite a bit. And so I can't say like this is exactly how we help everybody, because we do look at a case by case. So for example, with a student I was speaking about earlier, it was finding a way to support her and her 4 kids, and then navigating that situation. And so we learn a lot about community resources and processes, because the goal is getting a student to a place where they have long-term stable housing support. And so sometimes the first step is for a student to recognize that they need housing support. So it's whether you're living in your car, you're couch surfing, you sleep over at a friend's house, then another friend's and another friend's, and you really can't feel like you have your own home. And so it's about getting folks to come and connect with us so we can kind of learn about the full picture. But for like immediate situations, we really do try to find ways to provide immediate housing support. So Turlock campus, if there's availability, we have partnership with Residential Life and Housing to see if there's temp housing options on campus. Off campus, we look and we explore hotel opportunities, particularly in Stockton, because I don't have housing on the Stockton campus. I do meet with students and we explore what's in the area and we figure it out. And I think that's the part that I really want students to recognize, is we're on the journey with them. Like we're in constant contact. Like, what do you need? What are you looking at? Are you looking for an apartment? How is that search going? Oh, you need first month's rent, security deposit. Let's look at what does this look like? How's your job search going? Like all the things that intersect with that, because finances, food, housing, they all really do at some point intersect. And so if I'm helping a student with housing and I'm like, okay, well, you also are struggling to have food and things like this, let's do an extra shopping visit at the pantry. And so just case by case, working together as a team to see how we can address all those needs, and just making sure at the same time that we're in their corner to help make sure everything's on track with school. Because a lot of times, like if I'm having a bad day and I don't have coffee, I lose track of the day, let alone if all this other stuff is going on. Sometimes you need to be able to focus on your immediate needs and then have someone here in the corner who's just keeping an eye on like all these other pieces and just helping keep that ship going.
You guys mentioned about how students approach resources. Can you tell me what steps Basic Needs take to ensure confidentiality and privacy for students?
First thing, top of that point is we're not confidential resources. So when we go into meetings with students, it's highlighting to them we're not confidential. I tell the way I say it is like they don't owe me their story. If they need a confidential resource, we give referrals, particularly to our counseling and psychological services, CAPS on campus, and seeing if we can help find them a space where they can share what they need or things like that. Sometimes, though, if a student's like, I don't want to share this part, but I'm happy to share these other aspects of my situation, I'm like, cool, let's talk about that. So we're not confidential, but we're very discreet. Only people who need to know about a situation are informed. And then usually that'll be connecting with like the Dean of Students office to talk to faculty and engaging in support there, or amongst the team coordinating resource response, or if we're recognizing there's benefits in connecting to other offices, but that's with intentionality and with discretion. There's so many stories there. We like to make sure that the student is getting to choose what they're sharing with us.
I want to go back a little bit to that piece of confidentiality and privacy, because it is a little bit different when it comes to, the case management side for like emergency support and housing. For example, when it comes to CalFresh applications or the food distributions, where we do have, like, for example, when they put on their application, their name, their address, their phone number. Sometimes even when we do CalFresh applications, students are able to include their social security numbers like on that. In that case, we do make sure there's that confidentiality and that privacy. We make sure, for example, that we don't have applications just laying around, where information is out there for students, other people, other students to see. But yeah, I wanted to include that because it is a different aspect from the emergency housing support and when it comes to, the other initiatives that we do.
I do want to encourage students to become familiar with FERPA. So FERPA is like the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act, and it's really beneficial to students. And so it's like about how your rights to accessing your own educational records and things like that, but it also informs how and in what ways we should not be sharing out information. In particular, for example, I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I'm having a flashback to my own mom and her experience with FERPA. If a student's parent calls and they're like, oh, my student, I'd like to have an update. I'm like, I cannot confirm or deny the student goes here. If you have concerns, we usually will direct people to UPD to be able to kind of check in if there's a concern on the student. I mean, on the back end, we'll collect the information and follow up, but we can't communicate that back. The reason I laughed is because my mom had dropped me off my very first semester at college, and she said I forgot something. But when she came back, they wouldn't connect her to me, and I didn't have a working cell phone. So FERPA made it a little hard that day. But we worked it all out, and I signed the paper that says she can know my stuff. But yeah, so definitely if there's one thing as a student, like really becoming familiar with FERPA and the rights around your own educational information.
Circling back to the Wellness Fusion, what is that?
So Wellness Fusion is a part of our CalFresh Healthy Living initiative. And essentially, this is probably like, I love this. This is one of the a part of my job that I enjoy a lot. It's that health education piece that, putting into like practical skills. So for Wellness Fusion, we offer workshops along with a physical activity. And this is in partnership with Campus Recreation. So we want to make sure that students are also, their physical health, their emotional, mental health. In this aspect, I'm very passionate about physical education, like how that impacts like just the body, right? For example, we have a workshop today actually from 2 to 4 at the Village Cafe. And that's where we've been hosting them. And today it's going to be like microwave meals. We want to facilitate, like, for example, meals that students can access in the food pantry. And in housing, sometimes they don't have access to a kitchen, right? So they do have a microwave. So we want to be able to provide that practical skill of like, hey, like come to our workshop, learn how you can make this meal with items from the pantry. Like in your dorm room. We've had other workshops like how to read a nutrition label, like how to navigate a grocery store, how to maximize your student budget to get groceries. And we like to include like CalFresh outreach information. We like to schedule appointments that same day, like if students are available for it. And then we integrate that physical activity piece to just like lighten the mood. We have students that are taking midterms, that are studying, that are going to work. And we know that physical activity is just a way to kind of like de-stress and like relax your mind. So today, for example, we're playing volleyball. Last workshop, we did badminton. The workshop before, we did like a ping pong little tournament. So it's fun, it's educational, and students have been very receptive to it. Something that we had struggled in the past before was like student engagement. But again, like the social media piece, obviously like the incentives, it's something that draws students in. And we've had an average of like 12 to 15 students attending every workshop. So we look forward to it. We prepare ahead of time. We love that students show up. And it's great because they come and receive this information. We see them have fun. And they also get to walk away with pretty cool incentive. Like, for example, today we're doing a giveaway for a magic blender. Like, we'll have a microwave, like meal container kits, things like that.
And is this offered at both campuses?
Yes. So it is offered on both campuses. Stockton students, if you are listening, we are having these workshops. They're typically on Thursdays, and we're offering a virtual. It's a different demographic, different time zones for students to, be on campus or not. So we're offering like a virtual way where students can log in and they'll see the workshop live. And then to make sure we have that physical piece included, we want to have them like either attend like a Group X class or check into the gym for at least like 30 minutes. And then that would make them eligible like to win the incentive prize. We like to be intentional about making sure we're offering the same programs that we can in Stockton and in Turlock because, we're equally as important and it's valuable information.
How does Basic Needs support student parents, and how do you provide them with resources?
Student parents, it's not like you just always come into university as like a parenting student. Like, you become parenting students along the way. We have students who are parents, but who are also caregivers of their parents. And so it's just acknowledging that there are these different layers of responsibility and priorities that take place. And so just factoring that in when we're like supporting in every avenue and every service. But I really do think like it's been great, like over the past few years, more so to have that narrative like pushed up and brought to the forefront. It's really hard to gauge how many parenting students we have on campus, but we really, I feel like, highlight more so in the experiences and in the engagement. At the Stockton Warrior Food Pantry, I have like the row of all the diapers and all the sizes, but I also have like this section that's like cereal. And so I don't know if all the parents appreciate it, but I get these magic treats cereals and I put them on the bottom shelf so they're visible. We're very family friendly space and in both campuses. And so we have students who come shop with their little kiddos and they're just like helping. And then I had one parent who was saying like, I don't know if I know the system well enough because their kid didn't come with them. Their kids usually like, we need 2 of these, we need 4 of those. And so it's a very comfortable familial space. And I think we are continuing to build, how do we promote that outward, making sure we're providing resources that are relevant to like all populations, particularly when we're looking at our community resources and referrals. We hear a lot of questions about like childcare, how does that work, cost. And so I think there's a lot of things there that parents should keep an eye out for because it can help with class registration. It can becoming more familiar with like what county resources are there for childcare. And so if you're curious, you can come ask us and we're happy to go on that journey to see what's available for folks.
Can you guys share any unique challenges that student parents might face and how Basic Needs support them?
I think the big one is like scheduling and transportation pieces. It's hard enough to manage your own schedule with classes, especially if you got to commute or work and stuff. And so when you build in a schedule for a school day, or your caregiver or daycare is like closed for the day for professional development, you're like, well, I have class. What am I supposed to do? So I think a lot of that is just navigating and understanding how to communicate those needs. I think a lot of times folks work to separate school from life, just like work-life balance, but just encouraging folks to kind of bridge that gap. I think we're moving away from a mentality where it's like leave your baggage at the door, or your day, your situation, your emotions. Because like I have many parenting students who work with me who volunteer at the pantry. And I told them, I'm like, if you have stuff going on, if you have to, like your kid's got a field trip, your kid's not feeling well, or whatever it may be, like fill me and let me know. We'll see how we can work it out. Like I don't want you to just leave it at the door. I want you to be able to like let me know. And because that's the grace I hope for in being a parent, is to be able to be present for my child while working to accomplish things. I specifically remember a late night shift at the pantry, because we're open to like 7 p.m. on Wednesdays in Stockton. There's a parent shopper and she's at the end and we're bagging up the groceries, and she's like, oh yeah, my babysitter couldn't make it today, so I brought my kid to school. And she's like, this is like really stressful, and she just felt bad about bringing her kid to class. And I was like, what? Why are you feeling bad? You're role modeling. You can do it all. Like, look at you. You're coming. You're tackling your education, and your kid gets to see that. Like, that's really cool. And so I think it's like really encouraging that it's not a negative thing to be a parent at school. It's hard, and there's a lot of work into it, but it's something also very admirable to strive to work and do more and what you want for yourself and for your kids to see that.
Can you tell us a little bit about basic needs for little warriors?
We're still developing different ways how we can support. So far, what we have been successful with is, again, like the warrior clothing closet, food distributions, things like that, having a little section for them in the pantry. We actually just picked up our first donation on the way here, but we're hosting a donation drive for children's items and parenting resources. So we put out bins at the student center lobby, at the library lobby, in the student services building, and in the library lobby. You mentioned earlier, like Stan State fam, right? Like, and I really feel that, and when I was putting up the post, there was a part that I put like, let's show up for like our students and their little warriors, and like, I think kind of like that hit home, because like, just like Leticia, like I was a parenting student, like we're working moms and we can use sometimes like that extra support. And it's so awesome to be able to see like how our community shows up for our students. And our donation drive just started yesterday, and just being able to see like donations already in our bins was really exciting. So yeah, this event again is going to be from April 14th to May 2nd. And the plan is to host an event similar to the Clothing Closet and Warrior Pantry, to where students could come in and just get items at no cost, no questions asked to them, that will support their family needs. As well, during this event, we're going to be offering CalFresh assistance, because one of the eligibility criteria is maybe having, children under 12 or under 5 that we could support with, and just being on the spot to be able to do that for them. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to see what that's going to turn out like. It's one of our first like initiatives that we do kind of long-term-ish. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited to see families come in with their little warriors to come in and, grab the items that they need. So far, we've gotten some clothing items for children. We've gotten a few notebooks, study materials for parents. And then we got a cool little bike. It was so cool. Yeah, just to see that.
Are you looking to make this a more annual thing?
It would be awesome. It's like our first time around that we're doing it. So we'll see how it pans out. And essentially, we're looking to continue to do these things to support our parenting students and their families.
You guys mentioned earlier that there's a lot of collaboration and referrals that go into the basic needs. Can you tell me a little bit more of what campus organizations and local businesses offer to support students through basic needs?
It's important that basic needs is very much a community-based concept. And so one of the things I really like to highlight too is We often find support from a lot of our campus partners in regards to collaboration on like events. Sometimes when we're unloading like the truck for the food pantry and we're like, oh, we don't have enough folks, other offices will volunteer. We share a building with athletics. They're really great neighbors. Campus Rec has sent folks over. A lot of our student volunteers are with our College Corps program. We serve as a site for volunteers for many folks. Even community members volunteer. If you're interested in volunteering, please contact our office. And so we're really, it's just really great to know, like, we couldn't do the work without the community. Some of the things we offer, like the grants and things like that, is a lot of times people are like, how is everything funded? And so donations and like the contributions, like from the California Faculty Association. Also, we work with ASI in the Student Center. Like when I'm doing case management for students and they're like really combating some food security pieces, we have like these grocery meal gift cards that we're able to do in certain cases, and that's thanks to them. And so when we're working and tangling through everything, there's always so many different pieces. Every contribution, every moment, every conversation of support, it really does matter to the work that we're doing, getting us out there, getting us connected, particularly when someone's like, oh, I know somebody who works at this food bank, and then they connect them with us, and then that leads to a larger partnership. So we have that really great partnership with Second Harvest as a community partner, and they're really interested in the work that we do and always open to conversations. And at Stockton, we recently connected with the emergency food bank there, and they're really looking to build our partnerships. Since I don't have a food distribution, what I like to do is myself and our CAPS counselor on the site and her well-being ambassadors will go and volunteer at the local Prevail organization's food distribution as a way to kind of help build up community resources, because the more folks they have volunteering there, the more boxes they can put out. And I refer students to that one. So just really trying to like show up for community and being part of the communities that we're in.
Now, I want to include, like, I feel like our team is slim, right? If we didn't have our volunteers, if we didn't have our community partners, we essentially could not function without it, right? Because we serve so many students. And I just kind of want to give like an overview. Leticia mentioned a few, but like every initiative from basic needs kind of depends on a partnership, right? So the Warrior Food Pantry with Second Harvest, CalFresh, we have a liaison with Modesto, Merced, and San Joaquin counties because those are the ones we serve. We mentioned Wellness Fusion, that's Campus Recreation and CalFresh Healthy Living. Like our Warring Clothing Closet, that's our community, right? It's just showing up. Our campus and off-campus resources, you know, our collaborations we do. Like just a big shout out and a big thank you, because we would not be able to do this without you.
Yeah, I feel like we talk to like multiple offices a day. Like I'm thinking like even Clothing Closet, like what is like Eco Warriors, the student org. I've gotten to know folks in the financial aid office really well, but that's where the magic happens, like really building those communication channels. And I think that's really what brought home to me the value that this campus cares, because I've always been met with like an open door of like, okay, if this is a situation, how can we work to like fix it? Like, and that's really cool.
There's a lot of avenues that students can take to get involved. I love that, because you wouldn't think that Eco Warriors gets involved, but they do, or even athletics with how you guys said they're your neighbors. And I think it's just really cool that you guys see the campus come together and show up and show out for each other day after day. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for students to make the most out of the resources and services provided by Basic Needs?
Come ask us questions. I, for one, I'm like, if I don't know the answer, I want to know the answer, but we'll go on that journey to like figure it out together. But yeah, if you're not sure how to use it or things like that, we're totally open to like, oh, what? We'd love to have you here. Come through. So just come say hi. Even if you just want to come take a peek and be like, what is everyone talking about? And I hope everyone is talking about us.
Yeah, I completely agree with Leticia. Ask all the questions, use all of the resources that we have. And it often happens, you know, like if, for example, not too long ago, I had a student come in and he's just like, hey, like, I want to apply to Stan State. Like, how do I do that? I was like, okay, well, let me show you the website, you know? So like Leticia said, like, we will figure out the answer for you. If not, we will navigate that process with you. And it's just a fun part of our job, you know, just being able to meet students, talk to them, get familiar with you, and just use our resources.
How do you envision the future of Basic Needs evolving to better serve the changing needs of our campus community?
over the past few years, the need and the usage has grown so much. And so our futures, I think, is just racing to keep up. And then the more that the need shows up in the community, the more it's going to show up on campus. We just work harder to try to figure out how to keep up. But I think the goal is, I heard someone say this once, and I always thought it was so interesting, is the wish I have in a role like this is that one day it's not needed, because then everyone has what they have. And so I think the goal is just kind of continuing to serve that need and to ensure to advocate as long as we can, as far as we can.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Leticia kind of mentioned it all because like it is a rapidly growing program, and just keeping up with the needs and being able to serve our students well. That's the most optimal thing that we can strive for, is just making sure they're served well and that we do our jobs to the best of the ability that we can, and just continuing to work with our community, growing our program, being able to grow the amount of students we serve and their families. Students and their families are what make Stan State, right? And just being able to be that resource for them, and just being there, being someone that can support. Because we still get students that are like, oh, like I'm graduating. Like I didn't know we had a Warrior Food Pantry. I want this to be something like, I want basic needs to be known, something where like the stigma is no longer there, that the access is there for everyone.
Every student, every story, every situation, it matters. And I mean, we learn more every day about what folks are going through, and it's a privilege to be involved and to have that opportunity to help if we can.
Is there anything else that you guys want to cover, or anything that we didn't discuss that you would like to put out for students to know?
I feel like we're like an office, like where our work is very much essential to like people being every day. We also like to have fun. We're very much like, I think that what adds to our community vibe is like care, family, fun, and support. It all goes together. There's like a lot of love, just like care and kindness in the space. So we hope people can have fun. Like, go to the Wellness Fusion. It's really awesome. Try to like engage and let us know how to make your experience more positive. What can help you feel better about your day?
I would like to just highlight like our staff, right? I feel like we have a pretty solid team. And I feel like I like to make that comment often, because I feel like we are truly people that care, and being able to pull from our personal experiences or pull from other backgrounds, things we've lived, and just being able to show up. And I just want to let students know that we do care and we are here for you.
Thank you, ladies, for sharing your expertise and the resources students have from the basic needs services on campus. I would like to end the podcast with just a simple question. What is something you like to do personally to take care of yourself?
So if nothing else, too, in having all these conversations with students, I have constantly reminded myself that I need to take my own advice. And so I try to reframe my own mentality and focus. I think, Alexa, you actually brought this up. It's like, when people ask you how your day's going, I'll be like, I'm tired, I'm sleepy, I'm fine. But lately I've just been like, I'm good, I'm doing good. And it's surprising people. I'm like, okay, how many times did I tell them I'm tired? But I think it's like that mentality. Like, I think I underestimated the power of like verbal affirmations. Like, I'm strong, I'm brave, I'm confident. And so just like telling myself what I need to hear and reassure and recognize myself. And that's really helped me tackle my day. Sorry, Alex, I feel like I took yours because you did inspire me.
Good. For me, it's just spending time with family and reminding myself to be grateful for the small things. And I feel like a lot of the things we do, I always say like our work is like empathetic work, right? So sometimes like we hear these student stories and it feels heavy, right? Because we're human and we are in basic needs and we just want to help. So just acknowledging that like some things are out of our control. Like we cannot go further than what we've already been doing. So having that peace of mind that's like, I've done what I can, and like things that I cannot control, like I'm not going to let that like rob my peace in a way, So it's just like going back home and, spending time with my daughter, with our family, summer is coming. So it's exciting time of the year too. And more self-care. More self-care.
Well, thank you again, ladies, for coming onto this podcast and sharing the resources from Basic Needs.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Taking Care of You podcast. You can listen to this episode and past episodes on your favorite podcast platform or visit csustan.edu/podcast. And be sure to subscribe and follow to be notified of any new episodes. Stay safe, warriors, and take care.